Hi friends, welcome to the All Canadian Reptile Girl. I'm Annaliese, and I am not in my basement, as you can hopefully clearly tell, and that's because I am in Pittsburgh. Well, I'm just outside of Pittsburgh, and I am super excited to be here at Reach Out Reptiles and to see my friend Garrett and some of his awesome reticulated pythons. Let's go! Here's Waffles. So I had the chance to meet Garrett at Clint's Reptile's grand opening last year, and he extended an invite to come and see him if I was ever in the area. Well, I spent the past couple of days in DC for my older sister's hooding ceremony at the University of Maryland. If you're not familiar with that term, hooding, it's not as sinister or iffy as it sounds. It's kind of like a graduation ceremony for folks who earned their PhD, which my sister did in the fall. Alex, I love you and I'm so proud of you. Thank you for not joining the cult.
The leader is good, the leader is great. We surrender our will as of the state.
And folks, just because she's now Dr. Alexis does not mean that she can tell you what that rash is. Anyway, we are on our way back home to Ontario, and with a little luck and a slight detour, we were able to arrange some time to hang out here with Garrett and his team and Waffles at Reach Out Reptile. Now let's find Garrett. Oh wait, here he is.
What's up? How's it going?
Garrett, I think that pretty much everyone who watches my channel knows who you are and watches your channel probably as well.
Thank you.
I'm kind of a big deal.
However, I do have a couple viewers that do not watch your channel and do not know who you are. Like, for example, my great-grandmother.
Okay.
So, hi Grandma.
Hi Grandma.
Could you please tell Grandma who you are and what you do?
I'm best known as real friends with her great-grandmother's great-granddaughter. That's really what I'm known for in these parts. But yeah, I typically am known for breeding dwarf and super-dwarf reticulated pythons. Super-dwarfs are kind of the coup de grace, sort of like a lifer animal, like someday on my bucket list, I want to get a super-dwarf as a pet. Just because of the rarity, the expense, but also how interactive and amazing that they are.
Yeah, the intelligence they possess too.
Absolutely. One of the issues with these is that there are, you know, mainland reticulated pythons are one of the largest snakes on the planet.
Yeah.
And then there's super-dwarf reticulated pythons like these guys up here. They're both adult breeder females and they weigh, I don't know, 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And our girl that you saw in there, Karma, sitting on her eggs.
That is such a difference.
Yeah, about 200 pounds. But they look pretty similar as hatchlings when it's time to sell them.
Yeah.
And because the super-dwarfs are rarer, they're more expensive. And so people can, you know, put that little label on their babies and up the price a little bit.
So one quick thing to clear up here. When you hear dwarf in super-dwarf reticulated python, you might be confused about what that means. You might not, I don't know. So I'll just give you all a wee bit of context. By hearing dwarf, you might assume that it means that it will be smaller than a regular reticulated python. And you'd be right, they are smaller, way smaller. But you might be mistaken about how or why they're smaller. It's easy to assume it's a genetic mutation like the one that creates dwarfism in a person or cat or dog. And super-dwarf retics are created through selective breeding of individuals with that trait. A reasonable thesis, but that's not what's happening here. Super-dwarfs are produced not through genetic dwarfism, but through something called insular dwarfism, which occurs when a species becomes smaller over generations due to its population's range being limited to a small environment such as an island. This phenomenon is something known as island syndrome, which describes a pattern of changes that species undergo when populations get isolated on islands. It's not just dwarfism either. These changes can include gigantism and a bunch of other traits that come about based on these pressures specific to the particular island environment the animal finds themselves in. Things like having access to fewer resources like food or space, reduced or increased predation, reduced or increased interspecific competition. All sorts of things can contribute to these kinds of changes to the species over time. Are you eating leaves? Don't do that. No. Dude, okay, it's fine. So insular dwarfism is driven by environmental pressures, is evolutionary, and occurs over many generations as populations adapt to island life and affects entire populations, not just individual family lines. Conversely, genetic dwarfism is typically the result of specific genetic mutations or selective breeding. It can appear in individual animals or lineages without being a population-wide trend, and does not require the environmental pressures of an island. It can occur in any setting. So, at some point in the ancient past, some big old mainland retics found themselves stuck on a small little island. They swam there on a dare, maybe drifted to them by floating debris, maybe even introduced by people. Snakes on a plane? Who knows? The point is, they found themselves there from where they were. The pressures unique to the islands created widespread, gradual, very gradual, changes to morphology of the retics, and they got smaller. And that's why I was able to hang out with a full-grown reticulated python that was only 5 feet long. How cool is that? Let's just say someone just got a little super dwarf retic and they want to make sure that when it's all grown up, it is super sweet and gentle and very well trained and socialized. What kind of enrichment and socialization and type of handling should that person put into that snake to make sure that they get that outcome that's like this?
I mean, at first, I think you have to throw that disclaimer in there that reticulated pythons are often said to be one of the most intelligent species of snakes. And with that, you get differences in temperaments.
Yeah.
So again, if you work with a breeder, you can kind of explain, hey, listen, this is an animal we want to socialize, have around people all the time. Can you pick me out a baby that already seems prone that way? And that's about half of the way there. Then there's different things that you can do. A lot of it has to do with the particular type of husbandry you use when you have a dwarf or a super dwarf. So one of the things that you'll notice is we have like glass front enclosures that they can see out of. In fact, this little extension we'll talk about a little bit more. The glass actually protrudes out from a flat wall so they can stick their heads in there and see to both sides. On our grow-up snakes in there, we have ultra clear tubs. So they have places to retreat and hide and feel safe. That's critical so that they have the confidence to approach you, because they know they can retreat into a hide and be left alone. But they also need a big viewing area where they can come out and see what's going on as they become acclimated to your home or wherever they're at. The more they can get used to the routine, the more they can become confident in themselves. And so a lot of just giving them access to the information that they want, right? Visually is very important.
Let them experience the world in sort of bite-sized pieces almost.
Exactly.
Get them used to it.
Then as much as they study you, you should study them. They have very different body behavior at different times when they're doing different things. They kind of operate in, my friend Kevin McCurley, he always says like they operate in different modes. Oh. Whoa, there's some body language right there.
Thanks, dude.
This is, I need to go to the bathroom on Canadian reptile girl mode.
Yep.
I saw it coming a mile away.
Oh yeah, did you?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It was just perfect, you know, example of what we were talking about.
At least we got it on camera, you know, at least there's that.
Let's get you a paper towel. Here,
Let's do that.
We'll finish this question in a minute.
Yep.
That was perfect. So they operate very much in different modes. If they think they're gonna get food, you need to interact with them one way. If they think they're gonna come out and have some interaction time, you need to interact with them another way. There's a few things that you can do, like routine-wise, to communicate your intentions to the animal. That way they know what to expect. You don't scare them or catch them off guard and get an unexpected interaction, right? So like for us, one of the things is, I mean, you're probably familiar with this. It looks very evil, but it's not. It's just an inanimate, extension of your hand, right? Yeah. No heat, nothing scary about it. It's nice, cool, just a metal hook, and we'll reach in, and a lot of times if you open the cage, you can see they're ready for food. They're like, whoop, they're in that mode. So ever since they're hatchlings, what we do is every time we remove them, we pet them on the head with something. It could be this, a roll of paper towels, an inanimate object without a heat signature. You give them a little pet, and you'll see their whole body relax, and they're like, oh, okay, we're not gonna eat. And then you take them out. It's interspecies communication.
It is.
So it's like a little translator.
It is, yeah.
There's a lot you can do with their environment to help out. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a large, elaborate enclosure or anything like that. It could be, you know, dedicated time outside. You saw up in our studio, we have the little playground up on the wall.
Yes.
They can cruise up there, smell the scent trails of other animals. That's really good enrichment. Any new environment, new people they're around, that allows them to exercise that muscle, you know, their brain.
Yeah.
But one thing that we do when we have so many snakes here, we can't get to all of them on a completely regular basis, is we'll have like our habitats right here. There's a stack of 5 habitats. And then we have little like doggy doors. This is a prototype running. We just call it a playground.
Yep.
We've got all kinds of different playgrounds around here at the shop. But this basically is designed to give them everything they don't have within this enclosure.
Yeah.
So their live-in area enclosure is really meant to be safe, to be easily sanitized, something that we can monitor their health, keep them healthy and happy.
Yeah.
From a long ways away with so many animals staying on top of it. With this kind of situation, what you want is everything else. So the first thing they're lacking is a lot of verticality. So we have a floor to ceiling thing that they can get in.
They can climb and
There's
exercise,
a lot of loose things, whether it's this, there's I don't know if you noticed the perches here.
Yeah.
This one's completely vertical. If you've ever seen a arboreal snake scale a tree trunk, it's really
like
cool.
those palm trees and stuff like that. That's,
that's
it's so
what that
mesmerizing
is.
the way they move
Check
like
it
that.
out. It's just like a little
It's
palm
got
tree.
cocoa fiber on it so that they can grip too.
Exactly. And then we've used this universal rock product that's like a sandy, you know, rock texture for shedding and things like that. We'll incorporate ultraviolet lighting so that they can bask in that.
Good.
And so the one enclosure is able to give them things that they don't need on a constant basis, but I think that in order to have healthy mental stimulation, they do need access to.
Yeah, I mean, that's like their bedroom, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
This is them going to the park.
That's the, or at least the family room.
Yes, at
the
the very
private
least.
gym.
This is them watching TV.
Right, that's it.
Hey, if you're enjoying my visit to Reach Out Reptiles, there is more to see. My patrons not only got to see a sneak peek at this very video, but they also got some behind the scenes pics last week, as well as a whole video on other stuff Garrett is working on, and a bunch of bloopers and joking around and random conversations that didn't make it into the video. As of me sitting here in my backyard filming this right now, the editing of that Patreon video is not quite done yet, but it's looking like it's gonna be a full 10 to 15 minute video of just behind the scenes stuff that is not in this video that you are currently watching right now. If you want to see more of me talking to Garrett, because he really is a fun guy to just talk to, head on over to patreon.com/allcanadianreptilegirl. I highly recommend it. There's some pretty funny conversations.
A lot of poop.
Yeah, join these fine folk that have been scrolling on the screen in support of my channel and helping me do more trips like this. Thanks. So you have actually found retics in the wild.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty interesting experience from what I hear.
Which one? Oh, that one.
So why don't you tell us about that experience where you learned the trick to get big snakes to let go?
Yeah, that's one of our more popular videos, what to do if a snake bites you and doesn't let go.
And that's a very important piece of information.
I learned it in East Java. I was staying in like the Malang area, but they have like a mountainous area up above. And a friend of mine learned that I liked snakes, and he said, oh, I know a snake that you've got to see. He said, here's this huge snake. He said 8 meters, which is pretty stinking big. That's bigger than any captive giant retic that I'd seen, and I've seen a few. So I was like, yeah, I gotta go check this out. Now, I didn't get to stretch a measuring tape on it or anything like that, but it was a monster snake. So we went up there, and the story was they were doing construction and clearing out this area of forest, and they found a monstrously gigantic reticulated python. And everybody wanted to kill it except for one of the guys that was working there. And so what they did, it was a road crew.
Road work ahead? Yeah, I sure hope it does.
They're right alongside this mountain road that we were driving. They dug a big pit, poured concrete in there, and threw a metal covering over it and put the snake inside. He lived there, and he made her like a roadside attraction. You would pay, I think it was the equivalent of like 10 cents or something, and then he would let you open the thing up and see her. And so I said, well, I'll pay you $5 if I can climb down in there with her. And they have this saying, I don't remember how they say it's Javanese, but it basically means you'll surely die.
Okay.
And you know, the appropriate answer I found was, that's okay. And there's not much of like a liability thing out there, you know? So they're like, watch this guy, he's gonna die.
Okay then.
So I open it up, she's this giant coil of snakes. You couldn't see her head, you couldn't see her tail, just a huge, like a beehive of retic coils.
Cool.
So I could tell she was asleep. I just wanted to move her around a little bit, get an idea. I didn't want to like take her out or anything. Giant retics are a lot to handle. I just want to move her around a bit. I was there with 3 of my buddies. As I started moving her around, we uncovered her head and she shot out at me. And I'm like, oh, like this kind of just reaction, like get out of here. And I managed to like, catch some of my fingers in her mouth and hold her off. And she was, you know, going like this. I'm like, oh, holding the face of this giant retic. She's trying to curve to the left and right and nail me. And she used the rest of her body to wrap me up. So as I was holding her head, she kind of, you know, they kind of like hit whatever's next and go like this. So she had my hands tied up, my legs tied up, and there was still more of her left over. I'm holding her face. She was going for me. She didn't like being woken up.
Talk about not being a morning person.
Right? So I'm screaming, Bantu, Bantu, like help, help, you know? And my buddies that were not snake people jumped on their motorcycles and actually drove away. Like they would have to outrun the snake as it ate me somehow or something.
That's nice of them.
Very nice of them, yeah. So
true friendship.
Thanks, Timo. But at any rate, the guy who had caught the snake, he quickly ran over there and he grabbed the end of the tail and he nibbled it like it was corn on the cob. And I felt her whole body shudder and she dropped off of me and back down into the pit there. So I was able to, you know, get out of there and do that. And I've used that trick ever since. You know, a lot of people use a lot of different things like, hey, if the snake bites you or whatever. But a lot of them like, you know, alcohol on the face, hot water, all these things, they actually would hurt the snake. When you're nibbling the tail, you're not hurting them. It's just kind of like a, whoa, what touched my tail?
Almost like someone's tickling them.
Exactly. Yeah. Slightly painful, ticklish, I guess. But no permanent damage or anything like that. She lets right go and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, that certainly is great that he knew what to do there.
I was glad somebody did. I didn't know what to do. I think it's a whole heck of a lot smarter than whatever I knew what to do before that. So
I think, yeah, it's definitely an effective way to get a snake to let go. And that is important when you're getting one of these big animals that could potentially be very dangerous. You need to know how to handle it when things go bad. Because there's always the possibility.
And make sure they're not in poop mode.
So you are known for not just retics, but for doing a lot of work with USARK, which is an incredible organization. What is one of the main things that you would like to highlight about your work with USARK or some of the problems that they faced?
First of all, I love that everybody from the international reptile community realizes how important USARK is as well. USARK is an organization that actually goes to bat for reptile keepers. So we just want to bring a little bit of the equity of the people's voice who these laws actually affect and the ones who love and care for animals when it comes to that. Yeah. There's laws that protect animals and there's laws that protect people and those things are good. But then there's also laws that are written by people who don't really understand what they're doing. Very seldom are reptile people consulted when they're talking about reptile laws. Why is somebody who's misinformed or doesn't understand a subject the one that's writing the laws to live by? That doesn't make sense. So USARK actually is a very proactive organization that kind of gathers that information, presents it to all of us as reptile keepers so that we can do our parts, hey Tanya, in our community to make sure that we're able to enjoy lives with these animals well into the future. So I would say probably the biggest thing to understand about USARK that maybe people don't hear about all the time is I think sometimes people get this concept that it's like this large organization, team of lawyers that are out there fighting for us and collecting our money like a tax to the reptile industry. This really isn't what it's like at all. It's a very few people that are super dedicated to the future of reptile keeping. And the battle and the fight is really up to us on a grassroots level. So the most exciting thing is like watching the reptile community come together, set aside any differences of opinion or anything for a common good, which is a future where reptiles and people are still allowed to interact and learn from each other. The biggest thing is to absolutely get involved, support financially, support with your efforts, however you can.
Petitions too, like
all of that stuff. You can, the easiest thing to do is sign up for their free newsletters that will alert you to things going on in their area at usark.org. Read the newsletters. They'll tell you what they need and jump on it because it's critical, right, Grandma?
Exactly, yeah.
Give snakes a chance.
All right, Garrett. Well, thank you so much for the stories, the information, and for taking the time to talk with me here and show me around this amazing facility that you got here. I am so looking forward to what you're going to do with this whole building. I think it is an amazing plan, and I cannot wait to come back and see it when it's all done.
You guys will definitely have to come back. You should come back before then. We got Retic Fest on July 6th. Come play.
We'll see. I would love to. I would love to. However, family camping trip. We'll see.
Oh, man. Yeah. Camp here. Problem solved. Grandma.
Yeah.
You'll love it. You can stay right in this room.
Oh, you hear that, Grandma?
Surrounded by playgrounds.
Playgrounds.
What could be better?
They totally don't have snakes in them, Grandma. It's okay. Anyways, thank you so much. And you have some amazing animals here. Thank you so much for sharing them with us.
Thanks, anytime.
Well, I had an amazing time here. There's such a cool collection and there's so many pretty snakes and they're all really well-behaved animals as well. So that's always a plus. And even though this is a breeding facility, anyone who wants to create a breeding facility should look to Garrett and his setup and how he manages his animals. This is, I think, the template. He has created the template. Making sure that the snakes are well enriched and the mental and social aspect of these animals is just inspiring. So thank you so much to Reach Out Reptiles and the staff here and Garrett himself. I had an amazing time today and yeah, I can't wait to see when it's all done. So remember to hit that subscribe button, like the video, all of that YouTube-y stuff. Thank you again to my patrons. And yeah, remember to nurture all nature. Bye. I didn't really get on my sleeve. I'm okay.
He's
just on your arm and the floor.
He's showing off for the camera too. He's got his hemipines hanging way out.